let me tell you exactly what 95 exit velocity as a junior in high school feels like. It feels like almost. Almost good enough, almost quick enough, almost powerful enough, and almost recruited. And almost is the most dangerous place a baseball player can be, because almost keeps you grinding without ever having to confront the real problem in your development. Listen, I was almost for 2 years. I was watching all my teammates get recruited, watching offers come in for everybody around me. I was saving Instagram Reels at 11 p.m. telling me how to do drills and what I should be doing in my progressions. I was using ChatGPT for workout programs, convinced that if I just find the right thing, something will click. Guess what? It never clicked. And I settled for D3 out of fear. I showed up underdeveloped, I got benched, and I tore my UCL twice, and that was it. And the brutal lesson that I learned after all of that, I had a massive hole in my systems. Listen, exit velocity does not improve from grinding. It moves from the proper sequencing of adaptations that almost nobody in high school baseball is being taught. So in this video, I'm gonna break down exactly what it takes to develop exit velocity, the science and the system behind it, and why everything you've been told is actually keeping you stuck. Here we go. First, why do most guys never hit 100+ miles an hour for their exit velocity? Well, before we get into the systems, we need to get into the 3 biggest lies that actually keep high school hitters from reaching that 100+ mark. Number 1, getting stronger moves exit velocity. And it doesn't. Well, not directly. See, I added significant weight to my bench and my squat in college and high school. But my exit velocity really didn't move too much, and here's why. There are many different physical qualities that affect exit velocity. See, you can be the strongest guy in the weight room, but actually the weakest guy in the cage. Because the weight room measures how much force you can produce, but exit velocity measures how much you can produce it in a rotational fashion. So we need to look a little bit more closely at a quality called rate of force development, or RFD. And this mainly lives in your central nervous system, not much so your muscles. This is actually the speed or the rate in which we produce force, which is our strength. In other words, we need to become violently explosive in order to move exit velocity. The second lie we gotta destroy is more swings equals a better or more improved exit velocity. Definitely not. Good swing reps can groove mechanics, but they definitely don't build the physical foundation needed to move the EV marker. And again, swinging is not gonna improve RFD. And swinging is definitely not going to improve RFD. You can have a perfect swing, but if your body cannot produce force, your EV is just not gonna be there. So it's weight room first and then mechanics. Finally, it's believing that your hitting coach will increase your exit velocity. Respectfully, hitting coaches fix mechanics. They're not there to build the physiological foundation that is needed for you to produce force. That is a completely different system. And without it, your lessons are just maintenance. So what actually moves exit velocity? And let's break down the science behind it. First, let's talk about CNS efficiency. Your central nervous system is the electrical system behind every single swing that you take. It sends signals from your brain to your muscles, telling them how fast and how efficiently they should fire. Most athletes train their muscles, but few actually train their nervous system in the correct manner. A highly efficient CNS produces quick and efficient. A highly efficient CNS produces efficient and explosive muscle contractions. And on the flip, a low efficient CNS produces slow, disorganized contractions, regardless of how strong that muscle actually is. That's why you see the big, bulky, muscular guys who still can't hit the balls into the gaps for power. And 2 players with identical strength values have completely different exit velocities. Now, CNS efficiency is trainable, but it requires a very specific stimulus: heavy eccentric loading, isometric holds, and explosive concentric expression. Specifically in that order, and that is called triphasic training. Dr. Cal Dietz developed this system, and it's a foundation on how I build explosive athletes in my program. And it's broken down into 3 phases. Phase 1 is eccentric loading. This is the lowering phase in every movement. When you're coming down with the bar in bench press, when you're lowering on your squat. We can isolate this phase and overload the eccentric or lowering phase. We do this by utilizing something called tempo. If you have 135 pounds on the bar and you're going under it for a back squat, the first set you go down for 1 second and come back up in 1 second. The second set you go down in 5 seconds and come back up in 1 second. which set do you think will be more difficult? Yeah, it's the set you go down for 5 seconds. Since your body is under more tension by expanding it from 1 second to 5 seconds, and only on that lowering phase, you are overloading the eccentric by way of tempo. Now, when we slow down that lowering phase, it teaches your nervous system to absorb force and elastic energy. Think of it like loading a spring. The better and more efficiently you can load it, the more explosive the release. Phase 2 is isometric loading. This is known as the pause or transition phase. It's the bottom portion of that squat between the lowering and the up phase. So it's the deepest range of motion. Again, we can load this by tempo. So a pause squat. Go all the way down in your squat and pause at the very bottom for 5 seconds. This teaches the nervous system to maintain tension and transfer force efficiently. This is where your power gets locked in before it becomes expressed. Finally, phase 3 is the concentric loading phase. This is the explosive expression phase. This is the up phase, going up on the squat, pushing the bar up from your chest on bench. Now your nervous system fires everything it can in its capacity from the first 2 phases here. So if you have a strong eccentric, a strong isometric, then your concentric will express maximum velocity. Now, most high school athletes only actually train this phase because they skip overloading the eccentric and isometric phases. And that's why their strength never really becomes explosiveness. This is how we translate to the field. And this is how we unlock your RFD potential. Again, this is how fast you produce force, not necessarily how much you produce. You gotta understand that a baseball swing happens in milliseconds. Your body has a very tiny window to produce maximum force output, let alone transfer it rotationally into the barrel. If your RFD is low, your body simply will not produce enough force or quickly enough in that window, no matter how strong you truly are. And RFD is specifically developed through the triphasic system. Eccentric loading builds a foundation, isometric loading builds the transfer, and the concentric loading builds the expression of speed. But before you do any of this, you need to understand where your body's actually deficient. And the force velocity profile is an assessment that identifies your deficiencies. And you may be force deficient or velocity deficient. Force deficient athletes are weak but fast. They need more strength work before they can develop explosive power. And velocity deficient athletes are strong but slow. They have the strength, but their nervous system cannot express it fast enough. They need more speed and RFD work. And training the wrong quality for your profile wastes months. But training the right one accelerates development dramatically. This is why generic programs fail and why ChatGPT has no idea what your force velocity profile is. And honestly, your high school strength coach probably doesn't know either. Without this assessment, your training is just guessing. Now that you understand the science, how does this affect you year round? Let's start with the off season. Here we focus on strength, hypertrophy, and power. We're loading the spring, so we are heavily loading on that eccentric phase, building that muscle tissue and that nervous system capacity. And this will build into your really explosive power later. Most guys rush through this phase because they want to get fast immediately. Do not skip this phase. Preseason is when we peak power, when our strength becomes explosive. We shift from eccentric dominant training to isometric and concentric dominant training. And RFD becomes the most important training variable. We're ultimately teaching the nervous system how to express everything we've built in the off season. This is mainly when velo jumps happen. During the season, we generally maintain strength and power. It is our job here to maintain what we built in the off season and preseason. Because here's typically where EV dips. Your one goal is to stay explosive while everyone else is breaking down. Because most high school hitters stop training during the season. Their EV drops and their strength just disappears. Maintenance training keeps the CNS primed without excessive fatigue. And finally, during the postseason, you recover. Your CNS needs recovery just like your muscles do. You need to recover and reassess your force velocity profile. Identify new deficiencies that emerged during your season and build the plan for the next off season. And finally, add corrective work, muscle imbalances, and fixing movement patterns. Here's the truth, I wish somebody told me all this when I was a junior hitting 92 EV. Because exit velocity does not move from grinding, it moves from science-backed systems just like I talked about today. CNS efficiency, triphasic training method, and RFD. Understand your force velocity profile and year-round periodization. That's the system, and that is what closes the gap between 88 miles an hour for EV to 100 plus. If you're an uncommitted junior or senior stuck in the high 80s or low 90s for your EV, and you desperately want to get to that 100 plus mark before your summer showcases, The link to apply to work with me is in the description below. I settled, fuck that. Stand out, don't settle.